Hi, thank you. I'm Gerouki. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Uvascular, and I research sexuality and gender and the obstacles for comprehensive sexuality education in Greece, my country of origin. So the first inference of sex education in Greece happened in 1964, but it took almost 50 years for the Ministry of Education to publish books. In 2000 for the secondary, 2008 for the primary, as well as reference of sex education in the National Curriculum of Health Education in 2003. In 2004, the Ministry of Education at the time announced the introduction of sex education as a school subject for the 5th grade and on, but a change of the government killed the project. In 2017, 4 school teachers, preschool teachers, were taken to court accused for sexually abusing a student because they taught the genitals. And 2 years later, the educational materials those preschool teachers used received the Award of Excellency and Innovation in Sex Education by the World Association for Sexual Health. Public discussions on sex education proper implementation intensified, and fueling the public discussion offered the revelation of many sexual abuse and gender-based violent cases. And the Greek Me Too appeared in 2020. And 1 year later, sex education became compulsory teaching for about 7 to 14 hours for preschool and grades 3, 6, and 8. So those years, sex education was optional, as well as this year, when it became compulsory, teachers face what I call road bumps, which represent surface level obstacles. Why just 1.6% of teachers opted for a sex education intervention in Greece before 2021, and why most of the teachers today still complain? Very briefly, teachers have not received proper training and they do not have appropriate teaching materials. Those books from the 2000 and 2008, first of all, are outdated, and even when they were new, they never made it to the classrooms. Only last year they appeared in a digital form in the portal of the Ministry of Education as archived materials. And finally, teachers receive ambiguous messages regarding sex education teaching. Taking teachers to court is one of them, obviously, but also less dramatic messages. For example, the one that is implied here, when teachers use this textbook picture to discuss the human body in the 1st grade. So sex education teaching everywhere is a work in progress. As such, road bumps are expected. However, roadblocks are a different story. Roadblocks are obstacles in the root level that prevent teaching, teachers training, the publication of books, even dictate how sexuality and gender disappear in the whole learning experience of students in Greece. And these obstacles are related to sexual ideology, that is the system of ideas and concepts regarding human sexuality and notions of gender. The cultural conflict in contemporary Greece that affects comprehensive sexuality education is the conflict between secularism, the principles of separation of the state from religious institutions, and the dominant religion institution, in our case, the Greek Orthodox Church. In 1997, Professor Gregory Lazos published his research on sexuality as a value in contemporary Greece. And there he concluded that 2 oppositional forces regarding the understanding and expression of sexuality are in interplay in Greece. He named them the Orthodox religion and the market Western values. And he claimed that these conflicting ideologies are important for interpreting everyday life and choices. And if someone argues that there has been a long time since 97, data from the Global God Divide in 2019 are equally eye-opening. According to that research, 53% of Greek people, the highest percentage in Europe, agree that one should believe in God in order to be ethical and have good values. Finally, the name of the Greek Ministry of Education, the full name is Ministry of Education and Religious Affairs. And it has always been like that. Religion teaching is compulsory in Greek schools. Actually, it takes more hours than subjects such as geography, civil studies, or even biology. The plenary session of the Council of States has concluded that religion teaching in Greece aims in developing the Orthodox Christian conscience, and as a school subject is addressed to Orthodox students. But getting an exemption from this is quite difficult. And actually in 2019, Greece has been condemned by the European Court of Human Rights for their practices regarding religion teaching exemptions. So the Orthodox Church is influential. At the same time, they are very vocal against comprehensive sexuality education, especially the last couple of years when the civil society started to demand educational solutions to a range of sexual health-related problems. Arguments against comprehensive sex education from the church part are formed on the notions: what is sexuality, what consists the family, and whose right sex education is. For the Orthodox Church and those civil organizations that promote the church message, comprehensive sexuality education, as this is discussed by UNESCO, is harmful to minors. The message is clear in various visual depictions of kids suffering in their posters. Sex education is considered to be indoctrination to eroticism, and it's dealt by the Office of Heresies and Cult within the church, and this by itself has a strong connotation for the lay people. Sexuality as a source of pleasure is condemned as corruptive. Sexuality should be discussed only for promoting procreation within a traditional family. Therefore, abstinence until marriage is the only acceptable teaching, and heterosexual family of mom, dad, and kids is the only acceptable home setting. In the same way, experience of LGBTQI people is dismissed and negated. And the call is directed to parents. It is with their parental rights to take a stand, deny comprehensive sex education, to protect their children from ethical and spiritual contamination. In the light of the previous discussion, such opposition is not without consequences for teachers. These are important to be considered and discussed, but it is also important to make the connection to global trends against comprehensive sex education, women and LGBTQI rights, and these very nicely are presented and discussed in the publication of the European Parliament Forum for Sexual and Reproductive Rights in their report, Restoring the Natural Order, the Religious Extremist Vision to Mobilize European Societies against human rights on sexuality and reproduction. In other words, Agenda Europe is active in Greece, and I'll give you some examples. In 2019, the Holy Synod dedicated the first Sunday after Christmas to the unborn child. A few months later, an expensive public campaign targeted the abortion rights the Greek women enjoyed in 1986. There is a party in the Greek parliament that emphasizes in its founding declaration its belief on the institution of the family, as this is dictated by nature and tradition. Finally, it is more than obvious that the European Citizen Initiative Mom, Dad and Kids has a Greek sibling. This is the site where all argumentation against comprehensive sex education is presented, very often by direct translation from American or other articles. And it is created and run by a coalition of Christian civil groups. And the only difference, the Greeks had added a couple of more children in the logo picture. This is a critical moment for eventually succeeding in the proper introduction of comprehensive sexuality education in Greece. We need to deal with the existing problems of teachers' training and the production of appropriate educational materials, but that will not happen as long as we refuse to address the elephant in the room. An amicable divorce between education and the religion affairs in the governmental level could be a good start. Taking the debate and opening it in the society is important. What is the real number of parents in Greece who oppose comprehensive sexuality education after they have been informed on its meaning, goals, and outcomes? Challenging the Orthodox Church discourse and Agenda Europe in that sense with scientific arguments and more research is important. We should leave no space for misinformation. reinforcing the democratic rule and the respect to human rights, since diversity is the natural order, will empower people to realize their health, well-being, and dignity. And actually, this is what comprehensive sexuality education is about. Thank you very much for your attention.
So we might have some time to allow the questions. And the first one is actually about mental health. So dealing with opposition, with backlash, might also have a toll on our mental health and how we deal with that. So I wanted to ask Margarita, actually, if you have any tips on how to prevent burnout or anxiety that might result from all those attacks from the opposition side. So if you could answer briefly on that.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. It is true. All we people that we are working on comprehensive sex education, we are facing a lot of attacks. I had to go to court to support some teachers for just doing their job. So it is stressful, it's energy consuming, and sometimes this is the most important, the energy consuming. Instead of very often I thought that instead of doing my work, instead of developing my research, or instead of thinking the best ways to address these very important issues for the children and young people, we have to answer some unfounded accusations and answer also to personal level, like who are you and what are you doing and what are your qualifications and everything. So yes, we are in a war. That's why I thought the holy war. We are in a war, but in order to survive, because we have to keep in mind the goal. We want healthy children growing up in healthy environments and being able to form healthy without risk relationships. This is the content of comprehensive sex education. So in order, we focus to the goal and we try to make as many allies as possible. It's not good to feel alone in this. It could be an ally in the school level, if I'm a teacher trying to implement something, an ally in a community level, if I am a teacher trainer or educator. In any case, we need to remind ourselves, we are not alone. These kind of opportunities are great opportunities for networking, understanding. I think that, and if you agree with me, they're the common things. We've talked from Nigeria, Kenya, USA, Greece, Panama. The things, the problems are common. So negotiating and keeping the goal and advocating. I came to a recognition some point that this is not about pedagogy. It's about social policy and political decisions. So we need to be advocates of our work and our goals. That's my